Thank you for watching Norfolk Notables. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone, and this is NCTV. I have a guest today that has taken me quite a bit of time to get him on here. It'd be Kevin Roche, and yes, that's Paul's son. And he's going to talk about these many, many walks that he's taken for charity. And I think very few people know that you've done this.
Not a whole lot, yeah.
Oh, listen, thank you for coming, Paul. Thank you so much. So how did you get involved in this?
Well, way back when I was doing bike rides for multiple sclerosis for many years. And I heard the ad on the radio for the 3-day walk for breast cancer. I called and...
Now, was that Avon back then?
No, when I started doing it in 2008. And Avon had it, and the Susan G. Komen had it. I chose to do the Susan G. Komen. I called up and I got the particulars, and you had to raise $2,300 and you had to walk 60 miles.
So you have to make this pledge.
To pledge, and if you don't raise all the money, they put it on your credit card. So when you pledge to raise $2,300, they're getting the $2,300. Okay. So after I signed up for it and I started doing my fundraising, that's when I found out I had an aunt that was a 22-year survivor of breast cancer and another aunt that passed away from breast cancer. Huh. So at the time that I signed up, I really didn't know that it was so strongly connected to me. So then I signed up. I did the walk, and I went and did the walk, and it was incredible. I met so many survivors. The first walk I did was in Boston, and just
I think that's this right here that we're looking at, because one of your customers at the shop put this together. Beautiful job that they did scrapbooking this all.
Yep. This is actually, these pictures are from 2010.
Okay.
So a couple of years later, this is the year that I was going to do all 15. I get injured. I was only able to 15 60-mile walks.
In a year?
In 1 year, in a 4-month window.
Isn't that, weren't you afraid? Did you say you got hurt then? And now I heard you say you didn't get hurt on the walks.
Well, I did get a stress fracture on the walks, and they told me if I kept walking that it would be a lot more severe and I wouldn't be able to do any walking.
Right.
And
oh my God.
So where I was doing fundraising, I couldn't take a chance on injure myself, so I couldn't work.
Right. Oh, sure.
So that's when I decided I had done eight walks up to the point where I get injured out in San Francisco, up some hilly terrain in the dirt and all that. I got a stress fracture. So that's when I took 5 walks off, and I finished in Arizona and San Diego. I finished 2 out that year. I raised $27,000.
And now which year are we talking about? 2010?
2010 is the year I did 10 walks.
So after you did the first one, this was like some kind of addiction that took over.
The first walk, I heard all the stories from all the survivors, and I says, well, I felt it was a very noteworthy cause and all that. So in 2009, I did Boston, and everyone was telling me San Diego is the most amazing walk and all that. And Boston was the first walk, San Diego was the last walk. So I went and did San Diego. It was amazing. The weather was great, the scenery. It was just an amazing walk. There was 3,500 walkers. So then after I did that walk, the following year I says, well, I did the first one and I did the last one. So then I says, well, I might as well do all of them.
This is now 2011.
No, in 2009, I did the first one and the last one. That's when I decided in 2010 I was going to try to take on doing all of them.
The first and last one of the year.
The first and last one of the year.
Oh, okay.
So one was in July and one was in November.
Now, what's the logistics when you get out there?
That's a difficult thing. When I decided to do all 15 walks, they tell you the starting point. Once you get there, you put all your luggage, and they put it on a gear truck. You walk 20 miles, and you go and pick up your luggage at camp. They give you a tent.
So you start walking right away when you get there?
Pretty much within an hour.
Uh-huh.
They have what they call opening ceremony.
Yeah.
So they have you do a little stretching, and they usually have a couple of cancer survivors come out.
Speak.
And do a little speaking, and they say, okay, let the walk begin. And you generally walk 22 to 23 miles the first day.
Oh, wow.
Then when you get to camp,
And what is the camp like?
It's usually in an open park.
Oh, it's not a hotel.
It's not a hotel.
Now, are you supposed to bring your own tents
No,
and everything?
they supply your own. They supply the tent.
Oh, okay.
So you bring your sleeping bag and all that. You put it when you get to the opening ceremony. You put it on a gear truck. You do the walk.
Yeah.
When you get there, they give you a tent. They tell you where it is, and you go set up your tent. Then you go over and get your gear, and they have shower trucks. Oh. So you shower in
a tremendous organization.
It's
a tremendous.
It's incredible how well organized it is. I would say they have 20 paid staff, and the rest are volunteers. They generally have between 300 and 500 volunteers between per walk, between cooking, gear, crew.
Now the food is cooked. They don't just bring in sand. There's actually a cooking tent or a cooking facility.
Yes.
And you go through, and they sort of have the table set up. And if this is in a field, or
they have a big dining tent.
Amazing.
You know, you generally start walking at 7 in the morning. I used to get done, but I walked at a fairly fast pace, so I get done about 1:30. But the last walkers usually come in about 7 o'clock.
Oh.
So they have a very long day.
Now, what do you, so while I'm thinking of it, so total, do you have any idea of how many miles you've walked totally?
I'd say about 1,800. I've done 30, 60-mile walks.
And when was the last one? When was the most recent one?
This past year. I did that in Boston. This is the first. They had stopped Boston for a while, and they just brought it back. So I did Boston this year.
And so now, when you sit down, I mean, people sit anywhere they want, or they try to have any kind of a mix people up, or they group you by where you're from, or?
No, it's pretty much up to you. They have a camp show at the end of the night. They have a little entertainment for a couple hours. And people get up and speak, and they have some games to keep you entertained. When they say lights out at 9 o'clock, that's when they shut the generators off and everything goes dark.
Right. Well, you'd have to because you'd have to get some rest, for goodness' sake.
Exactly. The cooking crew usually gets up about 4 o'clock and starts cooking.
Huh. Now you've always just walked. You've never volunteered.
Correct. I've walked in all the different walk.
Now, and do they block off the traffic, or how does that work?
Not really. On some of the busy streets they do, but generally you walk on the sidewalks. On some of the real busy roads, there are traffic officers there to stop the traffic and let you cross. But generally you're on your own most of the time.
And so there must be a lot of camaraderie, a lot of.
It's unbelievable how friendly and how supportive everyone is. In different cities, they have different areas for cheering stations. So when you're walking by, the cheering stations could be anywhere from 50 to 300 people.
Oh, they've got those too.
They have designated cheering stations for the family and friends along the route. And a lot of times, businesses themselves know the route, so they hand out water and candy, and it's unbelievable the support all along the way at all the different walks.
Now, if you're just on one side of the street, so there's quite a long line of people, or are you on both sidewalks?
One side of the street. Everyone walks the same route.
So it must be quite a distance from the beginning to the.
Generally, each city has a different amount of walkers. In 2010, the walkings, I think the lowest one was 800, but the biggest walk was 3,200.
Oh, and where was that one?
That one, the biggest walk was San Diego. But Boston had 1,600.
Now, this is, when we're looking at this book here, so this is Boston. There's the,
Yep.
I can't even think of the name of that building. And there's
Prudential.
There's the
duck boats.
The duck boats. And now this is Cleveland.
Yep, that was my second walk. It was
From
consecutive
the end of July
weekends.
to the beginning of, they were?
The first 6 were consecutive weekends.
You mean each weekend?
I would fly out on Thursday night to a different city. I'd walk Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, take the red eye home, get to work. Sometimes I'd get to work right off the plane. I'd go to work, get changed, work till 6 that night. I'd work Monday through Thursday. I'd have to take it. I'd generally fly out between 4 and 7 on Thursday night.
My goodness.
And the logistics to figure out where you're going to stay and everything was very difficult. So I didn't bother. You
mean a real hotel?
Right. So I just booked the plane fare out to the city.
Yeah.
Then when I got to the city, I'd figure out where I was going to stay.
Now, why was it any more difficult than anybody else traveling around? Because of the numbers of people that were arriving?
Well, so much because I was doing it 15 times in a 4-month window. I had to book the to and from, then to get hotels and everything would just be too much extra logistics.
So it was virtually every weekend?
Every weekend. Well, it was 6 weekends consecutive. Then there was a week break. Then
How did you keep up with it?
It was difficult. A couple of times I woke up Saturday morning in
know
the
where
little
you
pink
were?
tent, and I had to stop and think of what city I was in.
Boy, so the price of the flights is another element of the charity.
Out of my pocket. Because all the money I had raised, I said 100% was going to the breast cancer.
Right.
So all the other expenses were coming out of my pocket. So that was part of the reason I didn't want to book a $150 hotel 15 different times throughout that year. One of my customers donated 3 round trip. He had frequent flyer miles, so he donated 3 round trip tickets for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Where were those going to? Different cities?
Any city I wanted, I told him and he'd book them.
This was another walker or?
No, one of my customers.
Really?
So that's what he contributed to the walk.
So it looks like it's a think. Oh, here are the little. Everything's pink.
Tent City, 2-man pink tents.
It's pink. Now what is this? This is in Chicago. This is some sort of. Was this part of? Did they build this?
Nope, that was just.
This was already there.
Yep.
Good. So initially you were inspired by these people in the family that had breast cancer. But why do you think that you didn't just say, well, I'm going to give money every year, or I'm going to, I don't know, do whatever, as opposed to going all the way like this? Because this is really something.
Well, when I did the walk, I was talking to survivors. One lady, she got breast cancer at 68. I was talking to another girl, she got breast cancer at the age of 17.
Oh.
Then it came back again when she was 31. So I was very moved by the stories of all the survivors. I mean, they're all there walking the 60 miles with me. Some of them just recovered from breast cancer 8 months earlier, and they want to raise money and give back.
Now, you mentioned a pregnant woman that was walking.
Yes, in Boston, I met this woman. She was 7 months pregnant.
Oh.
Her doctor said she could walk. She said, okay, I'm going to walk.
And how many miles was that?
She walked the full 60 miles.
60 miles?
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll ask a question, but go ahead.
Then I was walking with her, and she had told me, oh, you can go ahead. I said,
she went alone?
She went alone.
Oh, wow.
Then after walking with her all weekend, she told me she was going to crew again in Arizona. So her baby was 4 months old when she left her child at home with her husband. She went to the breast cancer to crew and support all the other walkers all weekend.
So, and have you always walked? I mean, is that something that you always did as an activity?
No. Basically, when I signed up to do the 60-mile walk, I hadn't done any walks other than I walked 7 or 8 miles a day at work, but I'd never done any continuous walks. Well, I did a couple of walks for the Jimmy Fund, the Boston Marathon route, 26.2 miles. I've done that 3 times. I've done the Relay for Life and all that.
Now this here, right here, is the Twin Cities.
Twin Cities.
Gee, it must be quite beautiful there. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful buildings. Gee.
It was, I think.
Look at this. This is a church.
Yes, yep.
And what is this thing here?
That is just a water, a statue shooting out water.
It looks like a dandelion that's gone to seed.
I just took various pictures that I thought looked unbelievable.
Now, what's this about?
Just art.
And this is, now what you were, this looks very old here. This almost looks like an aqueduct.
That's the bridge between the Twin Cities.
Huh.
And that's the line of the walkers coming, leaving camp Saturday morning.
So now, and this is Denver.
Yep.
Now, what about the air in Denver? What about the oxygen situation?
It didn't really affect me a whole lot.
Yeah.
The only thing I did notice is when I was packing my luggage and everything, someone told me afterwards, make sure your toothpaste isn't full. And I found out the hard way because of the air pressure. My toothpaste exploded in my carrying case. But other than that, when I went to Denver, I had a cousin that lived out there. So she picked me up at the airport, and I stayed at her house, and she brought me to the walk Friday morning. So there are people that carry the flags. They have different flags and everything.
From the towns, or?
During the walk for opening ceremony, up on stage and the part of the ceremony, and they asked me if I wanted to carry one of the walks. So I carried a flag that said Adventure.
Really?
Because that's what it was.
Now, who makes these flags? Different people sew these flags?
These are just generic flags that say different. Those are the flags.
Oh, I see. Graduations and. Oh, that's you, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that's so. They have a little stage here. Adventures,
right. Yes. At opening ceremony.
Graduations invisible. Huh. So was anything? Oh, now here's Seattle.
Yep. I walked with a firefighter in Seattle.
Oh, and look, they've got this all set up. This is pretty. I had no idea. So now tell me, in Boston, oh, here's San Francisco. Now what's going on here? What's this?
That was a dirt trail we had to walk up.
Oh my goodness! Why did they send you up on a dirt trail?
Well, you have to get from point A to point B, and there's only so many different routes.
And where was this taking you to? What were the two end points?
I think it might have been the park where we stayed at for camp overnight. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we had to walk up there to get. 90% of the time, once you get there, you had to walk everywhere. But I think it was actually in Denver, where the camp was, in the closing ceremony, they generally want it 15 miles apart. Due to the logistics, they need closing ceremony has to be about 4 o'clock. Generally on Friday and Saturday, everyone can come in up till 7 o'clock. They generally have shorter mileage on Sundays so they can have the closing ceremonies to people to fly out. So on Sunday, the closing ceremony was going to be too far away. So everyone had to get on a large bus. They drove us about 6 miles and just dropped us off and says, you walk from here.
And that's because of where they were able to put it.
Right. The camp and the closing ceremony, they couldn't get the right distance they wanted. So in Denver, on Saturday, I was walking through and I had a shirt that says 15 miles. It said 900 miles, 15 cities, one cause. Kevin is walking. So it was to identify to people that I was trying to accomplish walking all 15 walks in that 1 year, which was 900 miles.
And you had that made up yourself?
Yes. And I had a Facebook page, 900 Miles for the Cure. So when I was walking, this one girl at camp she says, oh, you're walking all, I said, yes, I'm trying to walk all the walks if I can raise the money. I says, I haven't raised all the money yet, but I'm going to. Now, I didn't want to promote that I was trying to raise money at camp and along the walk, because a lot of other walkers were raising money as well. So I didn't want them to feel obligated to give me money. So I wasn't trying to promote that I was fundraising on the walk. But
because typically it's done before you go, or
they'll give
people at home.
Sometimes they'll give you 3 or 4 weeks afterwards. After the walk, if you hadn't raised all your money, you have 30 days afterwards before they put it on your credit card.
But typically people do that. Well, I guess you could do it on Facebook too, couldn't you?
Yes. So I spoke with her basically about 5 minutes. Then the next day, I was going to get on the bus, and some girls I was walking with, when I went to get on the bus, they says, oh, that's it. No more. They cut it off like 2 people before me. And the girl says, well, we are walking with Kevin. they said, okay, he can get on the bus as well. So when I went to get on the bus, the person that I was talking to Saturday afternoon recognized that I got on the bus. So generally when the walkers go to get on the bus, they sit up the front of the bus first so they get off first so they can start walking.
It's only walkers on the bus.
Only walkers on the bus. And you have your little fanny pack with your water bottle and everything else. So I had walked all the way down. We were the last ones on the bus, so we were the end ones. So the bus started going. We were only going to go about 5 or 6 miles. And the person got up. She says, I'd just like to let everyone know we have Kevin that's on our bus, and he's walking all 15 cities, walking 900 miles, and he hasn't completed his fundraising goals. She says, and I think we should help them out. So at that time, people started sort of handing money and passing it back all the way along the bus. You know, and most of the people, well, they don't carry the pocketbooks or the wallet.
Right.
They're walking 23 miles, so they have limited funds. They have a 10 or a 5 to stop at Starbucks and get a cup of coffee or something else. Everything else is free, so you don't have to. So at the end, after everyone passed the money back, a couple of girls says, I'll count it out for you. And they counted it out and gave it to me and all that. It wound up being $270. So that she got off the bus, and just from everyone getting up and she had walked off so far, it took me till lunchtime, about 10 miles later, to catch up with her. She was just getting ready to leave lunch as I was coming in, so I thanked her. And on my Facebook page, I says, thank you, Bus 1, Denver, because they gave me $270. You know, there was probably about 25 walkers, and they just chipped in $5, $10, $20, and come up to $270. That it was unbelievable that what they did.
Well, the whole story is unbelievable. Now we just have 5 more minutes. So they move your luggage, whatever it is that you need, as you're walking to these different places where you sleep.
Right. Well, basically, when you get to opening ceremony, you put your luggage over to the gear truck. It's all alphabetical order. They have your tent site number. So they bring it to camp. You pick it up at camp. They give you a tent. You set up your tent. You put it there. And the second day, they have you walk in a circle. So the first day you go to camp on Friday night, you set up your tent. The second day, you walk 23 miles and you come back to the same place. So you have the same tent. So you're sleeping there 2 days. So then when you get up on Sunday morning, you take down your tent, you bring all your gear and luggage over to the gear truck again, and they bring it to closing ceremony.
Oh, I see.
So you don't have to transport it, you just have to bring it over to the gear truck. And all the volunteers put all the luggage in the gear truck, take it all out, and have it all in a special spot so you can find all your luggage.
Now, just quickly, did anybody ever have any problem with the heat or exhaustion or anything like that you...
Unfortunately, I get injured in 2011, so I wasn't able to do the Boston walk. I get injured on the 4th of July, so the walk was 2 weeks later.
That was while you were walking?
Well, no, that was in the parade incident. That year, it was over 100 degrees in Boston, because it's in July in 2011. So that was one of the few times they actually had to stop the walk because people were getting dehydrated and passing out and everything. So they make a phone call, the buses come in and bus everyone to camp. Right. You know, they have sweep vans along the way, so anyone that can't walk, all you do is you go like this here, the van walking by, will stop and pick you up.
Really?
And bring you to lunch or to camp at the end of the day.
That doesn't count for your miles.
Well, basically, it's all about raising money for the cause. The walk is supposed to be the fun part of it, what you get for raising the money.
Right. Boy, this is pretty impressive. I I tell you, doing this show, I've heard a lot of things, but this is really pretty impressive. But listen, thank you, Kevin, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Because this has just been something great. And thank you for watching Norfolk Notables. My guest was Kevin Roche of Norfolk Auto. And he is talking about all these 15 walks that he did for breast cancer. So it's I'm kind of speechless hearing these stories. It's just so impressive. Well, listen, thank you for watching Norfolk Notables, and we'll be back with another show the next time. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. This is NCTV. you.